The message arrived at dawn. Every screen on Earth, from the smallest wrist display to the largest orbital broadcast array, flickered at once. The voice that followed was not human. It was cold, layered, and echoed with the weight of power. To the people of Earth, it began. You have violated galactic law. You have created forbidden weapons. You will surrender them within 72 hours, or your world will be erased. For a moment, the planet stood still. Cities froze. Air traffic paused mid-sky. Even the waves seemed to quiet against the shore. Commander Elias Ward, head of Earth's Defense Council, watched the transmission from the bridge of the orbital fortress Vanguard. The alien symbol of the Galactic Council spun slowly on the hollow screen, glowing like a warning scar. Ward's jaw tightened. He had seen many threats before, pirate kings, rogue AI, border conflicts, but this was different. This was the voice of the entire galaxy telling humanity to kneel. He turned to his second officer. "Replay the message," he said. The alien voice echoed again, emotionless and calm. Behind the words, Elias could hear faint mechanical hums, as if the voice wasn't organic at all, but a creation of hundreds of species agreeing on one cold truth. Earth must be controlled. When the message ended, silence filled the command deck. "Sir," his officer whispered. "Do we respond?" Ward looked out through the observation window. Beyond the glass, Earth hung in the darkness like a small blue flame. "No," he said quietly. "Not yet." On the planet below, panic spread faster than light. Governments called emergency meetings. Citizens filled the streets demanding answers. News anchors repeated the message again and again, their voices trembling. Some said it was a bluff. Others remembered the stories, the last species that had defied the Council. The Dravari, a proud race that refused to surrender their homeworld. Their planet was gone now, erased by something called a stellar lance. Not a missile, not a fleet, just a beam of light that turned oceans into dust. Elias Ward knew those stories too. He also knew something the galaxy didn't. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. That night, hidden deep beneath the lunar surface, massive gates began to open. No one outside the Defense Council knew they existed, built in silence away from all alien eyes. They were called the Vaults of Titan. Inside them slept machines of war, black armored ships with no names, only numbers. The engineers who built them had one rule: they must never be used unless humanity itself is threatened. Now, they would awaken. Ward stood inside the command chamber, watching as the status lights turned from red to green one by one. Vault 01 active. Vault 02 active. Vault 03. The voice of the AI echoed through the chamber. By Vault 07, Ward whispered. They told us to kneel. They'll learn how humans rise. Meanwhile, far from Earth, aboard the Galactic Council station, alien diplomats gathered in a storm of noise and fear. The holographic image of Earth rotated above the table. "This is your last chance," one alien snarled, its silver eyes burning. "If they refuse, we must show power." A tall, four-armed delegate from the Vessery Empire leaned forward. "You think they will surrender?" "Humans do not bend. They break, and then rebuild stronger." The council chamber grew quiet. They all knew humanity's history: wars, rebellions, survival after every disaster. The youngest species in the galaxy, but the one most unpredictable. Still, the council's speaker raised his clawed hand. "Prepare the fleets. If they do not submit by dawn on the third day, Earth will burn." On Vanguard Station, Elias received the report. He sat in silence for several seconds, the faint hum of engines echoing behind him. His officers watched, waiting for orders. "How long before they enter Sol system?" he asked. 48 hours, sir." "Maybe less," Ward nodded. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Then we have 48 hours to remind the galaxy who we are." He turned to the comms officer. "Activate Ghost Protocol. All communications silent. The world will see nothing until it's time." Across the solar system, lights began to vanish. Earth's networks went dark. Mars fell silent. Even the colonies on Europa and Titan stopped transmitting. To the outside galaxy, it looked like humanity had gone dark, as if they had accepted defeat. But inside those shadows, something ancient stirred. 2 days later, as the alien fleet approached the edge of the solar system, their sensors picked up strange readings: waves of radiation, massive energy spikes. One commander frowned. "Are they detonating their own weapons?" Another shook his head. "No. This is something else. Then space itself rippled. A faint blue light appeared near Saturn, small at first, then growing brighter, wider, until it stretched across thousands of kilometers. From within it, a silhouette began to emerge, a massive ship unlike anything ever recorded. Black hull, blue core, silent, cold, terrifying. The alien fleet locked weapons, but before they could fire, a human signal cut through every frequency. "This is Commander Elias Ward of the Dark Fleet. Your ultimatum is denied." The transmission ended, and then, for the first time in 100 years, humanity fired first. Silence. For 72 hours, the galaxy heard nothing from Earth. No signals, no broadcast, no words of surrender. To most species, that silence was a sign of fear. To the ones who truly knew humanity, it was something else. A warning. The rumors begin. On the outer edge of the Orion sector, a small listening post caught a strange pulse of data. It wasn't a distress call nor a surrender beacon. It was a string of numbers, 1137, 1138, 1140. Then a phrase repeated again and again, "We rise in the dark." The alien technician monitoring the station frowned. "It's human co," he said softly. His commander replied, "Then shut it down. Now." But by the time they moved to block it, the message had already spread to 100 relay stations across space. Whispers began in every corridor of the galaxy. Earth had gone silent, but not dead. Galactic panic inside the shining towers of the Galactic Council. Fear replaced arrogance. Delegates shouted over one another, their voices echoing across the marble chamber. "The humans must be bluffing," one cried. "They're hiding," said another. But then came reports. Entire human colonies on Mars and Titan had disappeared from sensors, as if cloaked behind invisible walls. Mining outposts near Jupiter no longer responded. It wasn't surrender. It was preparation. The Council's intelligence minister, a reptilian creature with silver scales, slammed a claw on the table. "They are moving fleets," he hissed. "Their shipyards are active, but we cannot see them. How is that possible?" The Speaker of the Council leaned forward, his golden eyes narrowing. "Because they learned from us," he said grimly, "and now they are becoming something we cannot predict." Meanwhile, on Earth far below, Earth's night skies had changed. What looked like stars were actually ships, tiny sparks of blue light ascending quietly through the atmosphere. Each carried soldiers, scientists, and engineers sworn to secrecy. Commander Elias Ward watched from orbit as the last wave left for the outer colonies. His voice was calm, but his eyes were heavy. He knew what was coming. "Status of the vaults?" he asked. The AI's voice replied, emotionless. "All units online. The Dark Fleet stands ready." Ward stood silent for a long time, watching lightning flash over the Atlantic far below. He thought of the Council's ultimatum, kneel or die, and felt something deep inside him harden. "We'll see," he muttered. "Who kneels first?" The hidden plan in an underground chamber beneath the Himalayas, 12 human leaders gathered. The room was sealed, soundproof, unreachable by any satellite. They called themselves the Continuum, the minds behind humanity's rise since first contact. Dr. Ilara Chen, chief scientist of the Nova Drive project, stood before a holographic map of the Milky Way. She pointed at the glowing center, the core systems, where the Galactic Council ruled. "Our goal isn't to destroy them," she said. "It's to show them they can't destroy us." She tapped the map. Dozens of red markers appeared. "These are the relay hubs that control hyperspace travel. If we take them down, the Council fleets will lose communication and navigation. For the first time in history, the galaxy will be blind." A general beside her smiled. "And when they're blind?" Ilara looked up. "Then the Dark Fleet moves." The first signal 48 hours later, on the far side of the galaxy, a patrol ship from the Tyrell Dominion picked up an unauthorized transmission. A faint human voice whispered through the static, "To all species who still believe in freedom, watch the sky." The commander laughed. "Human propaganda." But then the stars behind him shifted. A ripple passed through space, small, like a breath. Then another. Then the dark horizon tore open, revealing something enormous moving beneath the fabric of space-time. It wasn't a normal ship. It looked more like a shadow made of metal, its hull pulsing with deep blue light. Before the Trell could react, their sensors crashed. All systems went black. When the lights returned, the human transmission played again, this time louder. The time for kneeling is over. Fear spreads like fire within hours. Hundreds of alien news networks repeated the same story. Unknown ships sighted near the outer rim. Human technology surpasses known limits. Council fleet on alert. In cantinas and marketplaces, whispers spread faster than light. They say the humans built ships that bend reality. They say they made a fleet out of shadows. They say, the Dark Fleet is real. Across the stars, fear replaced pride. No one wanted to be the first to face humanity's wrath. The Council's dilemma. In the great chamber of the Council, the speaker stood before the gathering of hundreds of species. Enough waiting, he declared. If they will not answer, we make them answer. But even as he spoke, holograms began to flicker. Every council screen glitched, symbols changing, codes rewriting. A single line of text appeared, repeated over and over. You told us to kneel. Now look up, the speaker's voice trembled. What is this? The chamber lights dimmed. For a moment, total silence filled the hall. Then from somewhere deep in the void came a sound like thunder rolling across eternity. It wasn't natural. It wasn't a storm. It was the ignition of something colossal. The whisper becomes a roarback on Vanguard. Elias Ward stood before the fleet's command screen. Around him, captains reported in, each voice steady, disciplined. Vessel Resolute ready. Vessel Obsidian ready. Vessel Iron Halo ready. Ward nodded. Transmit to all units, he said. Operation Dawnfire begins. The AI confirmed, transmission sent, encryption complete. Dark Fleet mobilizing. As the ships aligned, Ward whispered to himself. They think they can erase us. Let them try. The stars outside bent and shimmered as the fleet engaged their drives. Space rippled like water. And then, in a burst of light, the entire fleet vanished. In that instant, across the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humanity hadn't disappeared. It had gone hunting. The stars above Saturn shimmered strangely. To ordinary eyes, it looked like heat waves in space, but to the few who knew, it was the signal they had waited for, hidden far beyond the planet's rings in the darkness between light and shadow. Something enormous began to move, the birth of the fleet deep under the ice moon. Enceladus lay humanity's final secret, the Vault of Titans. For 50 years, silent machines had carved tunnels, built chambers, and assembled ships that never saw sunlight. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human stubbornness, black armor thicker than any known alloy, engines that drank from dark matter wells, and reactors that pulsed like captured stars. Now, the time had come. The first gate opened with a sound like the heartbeat of a god. A ship emerged, massive, angular, glowing faintly blue. Its name appeared across the control screens in simple letters. RNS Resolute. Commander Elias Ward stood on its bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. The blue light from the consoles painted sharp lines on his face. Bring the rest online, he ordered. All of them, sir? All of them. Across the solar system, from Mars to Neptune, invisible hangars released their children of war. Destroyers, carriers, stealth frigates, and planet-class dreadnoughts rose from hiding. The darkness filled with engines awakening, a deep, low hum that made the void tremble. The Dark Fleet had awakened. The galaxy reacts within minutes. Alien sensors began to scream. Across the nearest sectors, hundreds of detection outposts went red. Unidentified mass signatures near Sol system. Energy output beyond known parameters. Impossible scale. Repeat, impossible scale. In the council chamber, panic broke the polished silence. Holograms of the solar system spun wildly as reports poured in. How many ships? Demanded the speaker. The reply came hesitant. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. Their energy readings exceed fleet-class levels. Their weapons, he stopped trembling, are unlike anything we've ever seen. Another voice whispered, It's them. It's the humans. The humans signaled back aboard Resolute. Elias Ward watched the data stream flow across his display. All systems stable, the AI announced. Ward nodded slowly. Then let's introduce ourselves. He turned toward his comm officer. Open a channel, wideband. A second later, his voice echoed through every known frequency in the galaxy. To the Galactic Council, he said calmly. You demanded our surrender. You threatened our home. You gave us 72 hours. Time's up. Silence followed. Then a single word appeared across the galaxy's data networks, translated into every known language. Humanity does not kneel. A shock. Across the stars, billions watched from their worlds as their screens filled with the same image, a dark ocean of ships surrounding Earth, glowing faintly like a constellation reborn. Children pointed at the skies. Traders froze in marketplaces. Military fleets across alien empires went to high alert. For centuries, humanity had been seen as a minor species, reckless, emotional, unpredictable. Now they were something else. The galaxy's greatest war civilization stared in disbelief. If even half the reports were true, Earth had built a fleet that rivaled the combined power of 3 sectors. And no one had seen it coming. Inside the dark fleet, each vessel carried thousands of lives, soldiers, pilots, engineers. But there were no cheers, no loud speeches, only quiet determination. In the command center of Resolute, Admiral Tessa Khan approached Elias. Do you think they understand what we've done? She asked. Ward smiled faintly. They will. Soon. He looked through the viewport at the growing armada. The ships aligned into formation, symmetrical, perfect, beautiful. The stars reflected off their dark hulls like ghosts. Prepare the jump, he said. Destination. Outer Rim. Let's greet our watchers. The first jump, the fleet activated the Nova drives, engines that bent gravity and folded distance. Space rippled around them, and for a heartbeat, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, without sound, the dark fleet vanished. Alien observatories recorded the phenomenon but couldn't explain it. One scientist simply wrote, "They disappeared faster than light should allow. They broke the rules of the cosmos." Hours later, in a distant sector, hundreds of alien ships patrolling the border detected an impossible event. A sudden burst of energy, followed by shadows emerging from nowhere. The dark fleet had arrived. The clash of wills, the alien patrol commander panicked. Weapons ready! Defensive grid online. But before his orders completed, human ships surrounded them. No warning shots. No destruction, instead a single message blinked on every alien monitor. Stand down. Leave human space. There will be no second warning. The alien fleet hesitated and then fled. Not a single human weapon had fired. The message was enough. Across the galaxy, rumors spread like wildfire again. The humans have ships that travel through folded space. They appear and vanish like ghosts. They fight without firing. The Galactic Council tried to censor the information, but the truth had already escaped. Every empire now looked toward Earth, some with fear, others with awe. Smaller species, once crushed by the Council, whispered hopefully, if they can stand, maybe we can too. The message from Earth 3 days later. A new transmission flooded the galactic network. It wasn't encrypted. It wasn't hidden. It was Commander Ward again. Behind him glowed Earth, wrapped in the protective formation of the Dark Fleet. We don't seek war, he said, but we will never kneel. You came to teach us obedience. Instead, you taught us unity. He paused, his gaze steady. You call us dangerous because we refuse to bow. But remember this. The more you push humanity to its knees, the higher it stands when it rises. The calm before the storm. The transmission ended. In the following silence, the galaxy shifted. The Council recalled its fleets. Armies repositioned, and across 1,000 worlds, one question echoed. What will the humans do next? On Resolute, Ward watched the stars blur past the viewport. He whispered softly, more to himself than to anyone else. Now they know we're awake. Next, they'll learn why. The fleet sailed deeper into the void, its engines glowing like blue suns. And somewhere far beyond sight, the galaxy's greatest powers began preparing for war. Because they finally understood. Humanity wasn't the prey anymore. Humanity had become the storm. The galaxy had seen wars before. Empires had fallen. Planets had burned. But never like this. For the first time in living memory, an enemy came not to conquer, but to remind the galaxy what fear felt like. A silent arrival. The alien fortress world Valar Prime orbited a dying red star. It was the pride of the Galactic Council. Walls made of asteroid steel, weapon arrays capable of destroying moons, and defense fleets stationed in every orbit. On that day, Its sky was calm. Traders came and went. Then, without warning, the stars began to move. At first, it looked like a meteor storm. Then came the shapes, sharp, dark, gliding through the void. Thousands of them, no engines visible, no signal, no light, only black silhouettes sliding across the stars like living shadows. The commander of Valar Prime's defense network squinted at his display. "Identify them," he ordered. The technician's hands trembled. "No signatures, but their movement pattern. It's military." Moments later, the main console lit up with one simple translation: Fleet ID, humanity. The commander froze. That's impossible. But before he could react, every alarm on the planet screamed. The Dark Fleet attacks from the void. The Dark Fleet emerged in full. Warships with obsidian armor cut through the stars, their engines whispering blue light. Each ship carried enough power to erase continents, but they fired with precision, surgical, controlled, efficient. Their first strike was not random. They targeted the fortress's communication towers. The second wave erased the orbital cannons. By the third, the defense fleet was blind. Inside the chaos, Commander Elias Ward stood calm on the bridge of the Resolute. "Focus on the power grid," he said quietly. "We don't need them dead. We need them silent." Missiles streaked across the black void, sleek, soundless trails of light. One by one, the alien stations went dark, their lights fading like candles in the wind. No one understood how the humans were moving so fast. No warp signature, no hyperspace flash. They just appeared, fired, and vanished again, like ghosts of vengeance. The voice of the galaxy across the galaxy, the battle was broadcast live. Billions watched in disbelief. Alien commentators stammered. "Human vessels. They're bending light itself. This isn't possible." In the council chamber, the speaker stared at the hologram. "How are they doing this? How did they learn this technology?" No one answered. Because no one knew. A scientist whispered, "They must have broken the FTL barrier." Another corrected softly, "No, they rewrote it." The fall of Valar Prime Valar's fleet tried to regroup. Hundreds of alien warships formed a wall around their planet. Their commander shouted through static, "To all units, hold the line. Earth's fleet is smaller than it looks." But it wasn't. The Dark Fleet was layered in folds of light hidden behind invisible screens. When they moved, their reflections multiplied. One ship became 10, 10 became 1,000. The aliens fired into empty space, and then the real fleet struck from below. Columns of plasma light burst from beneath their orbit, vaporizing half the defense line. Ships shattered like glass. The soundless explosion lit up the red star like dawn. A message to the galaxy in the middle of the storm. One human broadcast cut through every frequency. Elias Ward's voice was calm, measured, and unshaken. "We warned you. We offered peace. You demanded submission. You wanted us on our knees. This is our answer." As he spoke, the Resolute released its final strike. A beam of light so bright it turned Valar's sky white for 3 seconds. When the light faded, the fortress world still stood, but its weapons were gone. Its power grids were silent. Its armies were broken. Elias didn't destroy them. He humiliated them. The galaxy saw. The galaxy understood. The fear that followed across thousands of worlds, silence spread. Children stopped playing. Factories went quiet. Every species that once mocked Earth now whispered its name like a prayer. On the trade world Rhinar, a merchant asked a soldier, "Is it true? Did the humans destroy Valar?" The soldier shook his head. "No, worse. They left it alive to tell the story. And the story traveled faster than light. That humanity, once seen as weak, now wielded a fleet born of vengeance and genius." Inside the Dark Fleet Admiral Tessa Khan approached Elias on the bridge. "Valar's surrender confirmed, sir. They've signaled total retreat." Ward didn't smile. "Good. Then the message is clear." She hesitated. "The Council will retaliate." Ward looked at the shattered remains of Valar on the hologram. "Let them. For every world they send against us, they'll lose 10. We're not fighting for control, Tessa. We're fighting to be left alone." She nodded quietly. "And if they won't?" Ward's voice turned cold. "Then we'll remind them again." The seeds of rebellion far beyond human space, oppressed species began to rise. On the planet Nora, slaves overthrew their masters and painted the human symbol on the city walls. A single raised hand made of stars. On Vornis, rebels chanted a new phrase, "Humanity stands. So will we." The galaxy was changing, and the Council knew it. If they didn't crush Earth soon, they would lose everything they ruled. The calm after chaos, as the dark fleet left Valar orbit, the star burned dim behind them. Wreckage drifted silently. The bones of arrogance. Elias Ward stood at the viewport, his reflection merging with the light of Earth displayed on the screen. He spoke softly, almost like a promise, "And we don't seek war. But if war comes to our door, it will remember our name." The crew stood in quiet respect. No cheers, no celebration, just the heavy truth that they had become what they feared, the galaxy's reckoning. Outside, the dark fleet moved through the void like a single living shadow, graceful, terrifying, unstoppable, and somewhere, deep within the council chambers, an alien voice broke the silence. "We told them to kneel. Now it is we who tremble." The galaxy was no longer silent. Every world, every outpost, every ship in the void whispered the same name: humanity. The Council's empire trembled, and for the first time in 1,000 years, the core worlds feared invasion. A shaken council, the Galactic Council's chamber no longer echoed with pride, only panic. Holographic projections of burning fleets filled the air. One by one, commanders reported their losses. Valar Prime fallen. Rhinar stations offline. Communication grids failing. The speaker slammed his claws on the table. "Enough, they are one species. One world. How can they destroy entire sectors?" A pale creature with luminous eyes spoke quietly. "They do not fight like us. They strike, vanish, and strike again. Their ships move faster than our sensors. We cannot predict them," the speaker glared. "Then predict their leader." "Who commands them?" The answer came in a whisper. "Elias Ward." The name spread like poison across the room. Humanity moves far from the core, deep inside a nebula thick with gas and lightning. The dark fleet regrouped. The ships floated in a blue storm of ion clouds, their hulls glowing faintly with electric light. On the Resolute, Commander Ward studied a rotating hologram of the galactic core, the heart of the enemy empire. It glowed like a sun, crowded with stars, stations, and fleets. Admiral Tessa Khan entered quietly. "If we attack the core, it won't be like Valar," she said. "They have defenses layered like planets. The Starbreaker alone could wipe us out." Ward didn't look away. "Yes," he said. "That's why we won't fight them their way." He pointed to a faint pulse on the hologram. "This," he said, "is their weakness." It was a small point, a transmission hub built inside a dying star. The hub powered all galactic communications and command orders. If it fell, the Council would be blind. Operation Eclipse Ward gathered his captains in the hollow room. Dozens of faces glowed in the dim blue light. "Listen carefully," he began. "They call us rebels. They call us dangerous. Maybe they're right. But what we really are is free. And they can't stand that," he paused, his voice calm but cold. "Our target is the core hub. We disable their command chain, not destroy it. Then we activate Project Eclipse." The room stirred. No one spoke the name lightly. Eclipse was humanity's last defense. A technology so secret that even most of the fleet didn't know what it truly did. Ward continued. "Once Eclipse is active, the Council's weapon, the Starbreaker, will be useless. They will fire it, and it will burn themselves instead." Silence filled the room. Then one captain nodded. "Understood, Commander." Ward's eyes hardened. "Prepare for jump. The core awakens." The galactic core shimmered like a city made of stars. Hundreds of defense fleets formed a ring around the central sun. Each world carried cannons large enough to erase continents. At the center floated Citadel Prime, the Council's throne world. On its surface, the Starbreaker cannon waited, a colossal weapon capable of destroying suns. When human energy signatures appeared on the edge of the core, alarms echoed across every system. The speaker rose from his chair, trembling with rage. "Fire the Starbreaker! Burn their world before they reach ours." Technicians rushed to power the cannon. The star at the core's center flared unnaturally bright. But before the weapon could fire, space rippled, and humanity arrived. The invasion of light. The dark fleet appeared in perfect formation, a black storm cutting through golden light. The aliens fired first, thousands of plasma beams cutting across space, but they hit only shadows. Human ships flickered between folds of light, vanishing before impact and reappearing behind enemy lines. Each volley they fired was precise. Command ships, weapon arrays, reactors, all hit in seconds. Inside the chaos, Resolute led the charge, engines glowing white-hot. Ward's voice cut through comms. "Target the hub. Disable, don't destroy." A swarm of interceptors darted ahead, weaving through explosions. They released pulse bombs that silenced entire networks. From the bridge, Ward watched as the core's bright rings began to darken, their systems collapsing. "Now," he said, "activate Eclipse." Project Eclipse far above Earth, a hidden satellite came alive, a black sphere orbiting silently since before the war began. Inside it, a fusion of human and alien technology glowed like a newborn sun. When Eclipse activated, it didn't fire a weapon. It rewrote space. Across the galaxy, every system connected to the Council's energy grid flickered. Power reversed. Data inverted. The more the Council tried to fire the Starbreaker, the more energy it fed back into its own reactors. In the core, alarms screamed. "Something's wrong," shouted a technician. "The weapon is turning on us!" The speaker's last command echoed through chaos. "Shut it down." And then the core star exploded. The shattering of the core light filled the galaxy. Pure, blinding, endless. Planets shivered. Fleets were torn apart by shock waves of energy. Citadel Prime was gone. In orbit, Resolute shook violently. "Shields failing," an officer cried. Ward gripped the rail. "Hold course." Through the blinding light, they saw what remained. A dark hole where the Council's empire once ruled. The galaxy's heart was gone. Admiral Khan stared in awe. "Did we just end them?" Ward's voice was quiet. "No, we ended their rule." The aftermath, when the light faded, the dark fleet drifted in silence. Thousands of ships scarred and cracked, but still alive. Around them floated the shattered remnants of the core worlds. Drifting cities, broken stations, burning stars. Ward walked to the main viewport. "We never wanted this," he said softly, "but they forced our hand. They demanded submission. Now they have silence." He turned to his officers. "Begin rescue protocols. We save whoever's left. Even them." A new dawn as the Dark Fleet moved among the ruins, their signal spread across the galaxy. The core has fallen. The Council is gone. The age of kneeling is over. Across thousands of worlds, species once enslaved lifted their heads to the stars. Some cried, some shouted, but all whispered the same words. Humanity stood for us. And on the bridge of Resolute, Elias Ward closed his eyes as the stars settled again. His voice was almost a whisper. Let them remember this day, not as the day we conquered, but the day we chose to stand. The war was over, but the silence that followed was heavier than any battle cry. Stars still burned, yet their light seemed dimmer, as if the galaxy itself mourned. The once mighty galactic core was gone, reduced to a field of drifting ruins and silent echoes. Where once there had been order built on fear, now there was only emptiness, and in that emptiness humanity stood alone, victorious, but changed forever. The wounds of victory on board the Resolute. Commander Elias Ward watched the void through a cracked viewport. The light from distant suns shimmered across the hulls of his fleet. Black ships scarred, smoking, and beautiful. Casualty reports? He asked quietly. A young officer, his uniform torn and face streaked with ash, saluted. 73 ships lost, sir. Thousands gone. But most of the fleet survived. Ward nodded slowly. Most, he repeated. That's something. He turned away, his reflection dim against the glass. He didn't feel like a hero. No one aboard did. Victory had a sound, not cheers, not trumpets, but the slow hum of damaged engines and the breathing of the tired and the broken. Messages from the void for days. Fragments of the Council's last transmissions drifted through space. Echoes of voices once full of pride. Some begged for mercy. Others simply repeated orders no one could follow. The fleet's comm officer turned toward Ward. Sir, we're picking up signals from survivors, non-human, thousands of them. They're asking for help. Tessa Khan, now battle-worn and pale, looked at him. Do we respond? Ward stared into the empty core. His voice came low. Yes, we're not them. We don't leave the wounded to die, even if they once called us enemies. And so, for the first time in galactic history, human warships turned into rescue ships. The same fleet that brought terror now carried hope. A broadcast to the galaxy within a week. The human network spread across the stars again, not as a weapon, but as a message. Every planet, station, and colony still connected to the grid saw a flicker on their screens. A transmission began. Elias Ward stood before a dark backdrop of stars wearing his battered command suit. His eyes looked tired but steady. To all civilizations, he began, the council is gone. Their rule of fear is over. We did not seek this war, but we survived it, he paused. The silence between his words carried more weight than sound. We will not rebuild an empire. We will rebuild peace. Humanity will open its hand, not its fist. His voice softened. If you are lost, if you are hungry, if your world has fallen silent, come to us. We will not ask you to kneel. Then the screen faded to black. The transmission spread faster than any fleet could travel, and across countless worlds, hearts that once feared the name human now whispered it with respect. The Galaxy Reborn months passed. The Dark Fleet became the Solar Alliance, a coalition of worlds united under a single promise. Never again would one species rule all. Human engineers shared technology freely, ships, medicine, food replicators, not as gifts of power, but of peace. Children born on alien worlds studied human history, not to learn war, but to understand strength. The galaxy began to heal. New cities rose from ashes, old hatreds faded, and though the scars of the war remained, they were now marks of remembrance, not rage. The end of a Commander Elias Ward rarely left the bridge of the Resolute. He refused titles, medals, or statues. When the Alliance asked him to lead permanently, he declined. I'm a soldier, he said quietly, not a ruler. He spent his final years drifting between stars, visiting worlds freed by his fleet. Wherever he went, people would stand in silence, unsure whether to bow or salute. He would always smile gently and say, "Don't kneel, just live." One day his ship stopped transmitting. No distress signal, no explosion, just silence. Some say he died watching the sunrise over a new world. Others believe he ordered the ship into the void, to rest where no empire could ever find him. But even without him, his message lived on. The legend that followed generations later, children across countless species would learn his story, the man who led humanity through the darkest war in history, not for conquest but for dignity. They built monuments not to his victories, but to his restraint. At the base of one such monument, carved in 50 alien languages, were his last recorded words. We never wanted to rule the stars. We only wanted to stand among them. The eternal night far beyond the edge of the known galaxy and the quiet dark between stars, a lone ship drifts. Its lights flicker faintly, the Resolute. No crew remains, but its systems still hum, preserved by time. Inside the captain's cabin, a single recording plays on a loop. Ward's voice. If you are hearing this, then peace is held. Keep it, protect it, because someday, someone will demand that you kneel again, and when that day comes, remember who you are. The stars outside shimmer gently, reflecting on the ship's black armor. It drifts endlessly, a silent guardian carrying humanity's final promise. The legacy of Earth on the planet Earth centuries later, cities glow beneath calm skies. Children study the Dark Fleet not as monsters, but as myth, proof that courage can outshine cruelty. Above them, in orbit, a single monument orbits quietly, a bronze hand reaching upward, fingers open to the stars. Underneath are 6 simple words engraved for all who visit. We stood. We fought. We remained human. And so ends the legend. Not with the sound of guns, but with the whisper of peace